Welcome to Life Stories. Family should be a place of love, warmth, and acceptance, but what happens when betrayal comes from the ones we trust the most? Today's story follows Emily Carter, a devoted mother who faces the unthinkable when her own mother, Margaret, turns against her and her daughter, Lily, at a family baby shower. What starts as a joyful celebration quickly spirals into shocking accusations. A heartbreaking betrayal, and an unexpected truth that changes everything. Stay with us as we unravel this emotional journey, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to begin today's story with Life Stories. The scent of freshly brewed coffee usually marks the start of my weekend, mingling with the soft hum of my daughter's voice as she draws in the living room. But today, the usual comfort of our morning routine was overshadowed by an invitation I could no longer ignore. The pale pink envelope sat on the kitchen table, delicate yet heavy with the weight of old wounds. My name is Emily Carter, and I'm 34 years old. For the past 3 years, my life has revolved around Lily, my 10-year-old daughter, my work, and the quiet moments that remind me I am more than the sum of my struggles. But today, those struggles had found their way back to me in the form of a baby shower invitation for my younger sister, Jessica. I hadn't been back to a family gathering since my divorce. Not since my mother, Margaret, made it painfully clear where her loyalties lay. Her voice still echoed in my mind, sharp and cutting. Emily doesn't deserve custody of her child. Those words had sliced through me like a blade, leaving scars I never truly let heal. And yet, here I was, clutching the very thing that would force me to face her again. Lily, with her bright eyes and infectious energy, skipped into the kitchen holding a small box wrapped in pink ribbon. "Do you think Aunt Jessica's baby will like this?" she asked, presenting the tiny gift with so much hope that it made my chest tighten. "They're going to love it, sweetheart," I assured her, forcing a smile. She deserved this. A chance to celebrate, to share in the joy of a new life coming into the world. She shouldn't have to bear the burden of family conflicts she had no part in. Still, as I tied the ribbon around the box, my thoughts drifted back to the countless times Margaret had dismissed Lily. The way she looked through her as if she were invisible. As if my daughter, the child I had fought so hard to protect, didn't matter. Since Jessica's pregnancy, Margaret had become more obsessed with her than ever, doting on her every need while treating Lily and me as afterthoughts. I took a deep breath and forced the thoughts aside. We left the house with Lily chattering away in the back seat, her excitement bubbling over in a way that both comforted and unsettled me. As we drove toward the Riverside Grand Hotel, a grand venue with its marble floors and glittering chandeliers, I tried to convince myself that things wouldn't be as bad as I imagined. Maybe Margaret had softened. Maybe time had healed something in her that I hadn't seen. But deep down, I knew better. The moment we stepped into the banquet hall, I felt it. That heavy, suffocating presence. Pink and gold balloons floated above a long table covered in pastel-wrapped gifts. A golden welcome baby sign shimmered above the presents. And the air smelled of vanilla and fresh flowers. Lily squeezed my hand, her eyes shining as she took in the decorations. "It's beautiful, Mom." "It is," I said softly, though my gaze had already locked onto Margaret, standing near the far corner of the room. She wore an elegant grey dress, pearls resting just below her collarbone, her expression as unreadable as ever. But when she turned and met my eyes, her features hardened instantly. No warmth, no welcome. Lily and I moved toward the gift table, but before we could place our present down, a voice called out, bright and familiar. "Emily, you made it." Jessica, 7 months pregnant, glowing in a soft pink maternity dress. She made her way toward us with a warm smile. She pulled me into a quick hug before kneeling slightly to give Lily a gentle squeeze. "And you brought this lovely little lady with you." Lily beamed. I picked out a gift for the baby myself. Jessica's smile deepened. But before the moment could last, Margaret appeared at her side. her presence like a sudden chill in the air. "Don't crowd Jessica," she said sharply, her eyes flickering toward Lily with a look I knew too well. As if my daughter's mere presence was something to be tolerated rather than welcomed. I clenched my jaw and swallowed the words that burned at the back of my throat. "Not now. Not in front of Lily. Sweetheart. Why don't we put the gift on the table?" I suggested instead. Lily nodded and carefully placed the small pink box among the growing pile of presents. As she did, I noticed Margaret whispering something to one of the hotel staff, her fingertips trembling slightly. The staff member nodded before slipping away into the hallway. A sinking feeling settled in my stomach. She was up to something. I didn't know what yet. But I had learned one thing in my life: Margaret never did anything without a reason. Guests arrived one after another, their voices weaving together in a soft hum of laughter and conversation. The air filled with the gentle clinking of glasses as waitstaff moved effortlessly through the room, carrying trays of delicate hors d'oeuvres. Jessica, glowing with happiness, was surrounded by well-wishers, while Margaret fluttered between groups, introducing her youngest daughter as if she were royalty. Meanwhile, Lily and I sat at a small table near the back, close enough to observe but far enough to avoid unwanted attention. Or at least, that was the hope. "Mom, can I have some lemonade?" Lily asked, her voice soft but hopeful. "Of course. Sweetheart. Just be careful." "Okay." She nodded enthusiastically and skipped toward the refreshment table, her ponytail bouncing with each step. I watched her go, my fingers tightening around the napkin in my lap as I caught Margaret whispering to another staff member. Something about her demeanor set off alarm bells in my mind. There was a certain urgency in the way she moved, the way she glanced, just briefly, toward Lily. Then, Margaret's voice sliced through the air like a blade. "Stop sitting around. Lily. You're in the way of the guests." Lily froze, her small hands gripping her lemonade glass tightly. The words weren't loud, but they carried an unmistakable sting. Around the room, a few guests turned, their expressions unreadable. I reached across the table and gave Lily's hand a reassuring squeeze. "You're not in anyone's way, sweetheart. Ignore her." Lily nodded, but the sadness in her eyes was unmistakable. No matter how many times I tried to shield her from Margaret's cruelty, her words always seemed to leave a mark. I forced myself to breathe, to steady the rising storm within me. Confronting my mother here, in front of Jessica's guests, would only create more chaos. But as I scanned the room, I noticed another staff member whispering something to Margaret. And then, she checked her phone. Her fingers tapped rapidly on the screen. Whatever she was orchestrating, it was happening now. Lily, unaware of the growing tension, twirled the end of her braid and smiled up at me. "Mom, can I bring Aunt Jessica a glass of lemonade? She looks thirsty." I hesitated. But how could I say no to that pure kindness? "Of course. Sweetie. Just be careful." "Okay." Lily hopped off her chair and made her way back to the drink table. I watched as she carefully poured a glass of lemonade, both hands wrapped tightly around it as she took a few cautious steps toward Jessica. Her concentration was evident, her small frame moving with delicate precision to avoid spilling a drop. And then it happened. From across the room, I saw it unfold in slow motion. A staff member, one of the same ones Margaret had been whispering to, stepped behind Lily, his foot extending just slightly, just enough to catch her foot mid-step. She stumbled. The glass slipped from her hands. The sound of shattering glass rang out across the banquet hall. Lemonade splashed across the pristine white carpet. Ice cubes scattered around her feet as she fell to her knees. Gasping softly, a hush fell over the room. Then, Margaret's voice rang out, sharp, venomous, and cruel. "What were you trying to do?" she shrieked, her eyes blazing with fury. "Did you put something in that drink?" Lily's tear-filled eyes widened in shock. "No, I didn't," she whimpered, her voice trembling. Before I could even process what was happening, Before I could move, the slap came out of nowhere. A loud, stinging crack that cut through the silence. Margaret's hand struck Lily's cheek with such force that the entire room gasped. A red mark bloomed against her delicate skin as she clutched her face. Stunned and shaking. "Mom! No!" I screamed. Rushing forward. Gathering Lily into my arms. Her small body trembled against mine. Her sobs shaking her shoulders. "I didn't do anything. Mom," she whimpered. Her voice barely a whisper. "I promise." And in that moment, I knew. This wasn't just about humiliation. This was planned. I held Lily close. Her small body shaking with sobs against my chest. The warmth of her cheek, now marked with the cruel redness of Margaret's slap, sent a tidal wave of rage crashing through me. Around us, murmurs filled the air, guests whispering behind cupped hands, their shocked glances darting between Margaret and my daughter. Across the room, Jessica sat frozen on the plush sofa, one hand cradling her belly, the other covering her mouth in horror. Her husband, Daniel, immediately knelt beside her, pressing a water bottle into her trembling hands. But my focus remained locked on Margaret, who stood there, chest heaving, eyes wild, as if she hadn't just struck a 10-year-old child in front of an entire gathering. "Don't you dare touch my daughter again," I said, my voice shaking with fury. Margaret's nostrils flared. She was trying to poison the drink. The ridiculousness of her accusation was almost laughable. But the room remained silent, frozen in the weight of the moment. Lily sobbed harder, burying her face against my shoulder, her little hands gripping the fabric of my dress as if she were holding on for dear life. And then, something unexpected happened. A hotel staff member bent down near the table where Lily had fallen and picked up a pink envelope, slightly damp at the edges. He held it up, examining it curiously before turning to face me. "This was under the table," he said, his voice clear and firm. "It doesn't seem like it belongs here." I blinked, my heart pounding. The color drained from Margaret's face. "Where did that come from?" she demanded, her voice sharp but shaky. The staff member straightened. "Under the table." It must have fallen there before the drink was spilled." Silence thickened in the room as he held out the envelope for everyone to see. The murmurs among the guests grew louder, curiosity spreading like wildfire. I tightened my hold on Lily, shielding her from the eyes that now darted back and forth between me and Margaret. I knew that envelope. The paper was delicate, the handwriting elegant and familiar. It was Margaret's. She stiffened, her hands clenching at her sides as the hotel's security manager, a tall man in a crisp black suit, stepped forward and took the envelope. He exchanged a quick nod with the staff member before carefully opening it. Inside, neatly folded papers slipped into his hand. Instructions. I didn't have to read them to know they weren't good. The security manager scanned the contents, his expression hardening. Then, he spoke, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "These appear to be detailed instructions involving today's events. There's mention of staff coordination, the placement of Lily, and specific directions to ensure a disturbance at the baby shower." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Jessica pressed a hand to her mouth, her wide eyes filling with tears as she turned to look at Margaret, her own mother, with sheer disbelief. "Mom," she whispered, voice trembling. "What did you do?" Margaret took a step back, her fingers twitching, her breathing uneven. I was just trying to protect our family," she stammered. "By humiliating a child?" I snapped, my voice thick with anger. "By hurting your own granddaughter?" The room was no longer on Margaret's side. Every pair of eyes was locked onto her, watching as the carefully constructed image she had spent years crafting crumbled to dust. The warm afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows of my home, casting a golden glow over the living room. The scent of freshly baked apple pie filled the air as Lily giggled, playing on the floor with her baby cousin. "Emma. Look. Emma." Lily said, holding up a stuffed rabbit for the baby. Emma squealed with delight, her chubby hands reaching for the toy. The sound of their laughter filled the house, chasing away any lingering shadows of the past. I sat next to Jessica on the couch, watching the two of them, my heart swelling with gratitude. Lily is amazing with Emma, Jessica said softly. She's such a gentle, loving girl. I smiled. She's grown so much. The red mark from that terrible day had long since faded. And so had her nightmares. Therapy had helped her heal, helped her rebuild the confidence that had been so cruelly stripped away. Jessica sighed. Mom still refuses to see us, doesn't she? I set my coffee cup down, nodding. She's still at the nursing home. The nurses say she spends most of her days writing in her diary. But the bitterness hasn't faded. Jessica lowered her gaze. I wish things could have been different. Me too, I admitted. But we can't change her. We can only move forward. Lily twirled Emma gently in her arms, their laughter filling the room. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel. Hope. We've got this. Jessica said, squeezing my hand. We're building something better now. And as I watched my daughter embrace the joy of life again, I knew she was right. The past no longer had power over us. The future was ours to embrace. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful life stories. Your support means the world to us.